Thanks, Jane. Um, I want to introduce Sam Benson. He is a policy associate with Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light. Unity Act for the Earth ministerial team works in concert and follows some of the initiatives and that Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light is involved in. So we're really pleased to have Sam here to talk about some of the initiatives at the Minnesota legislature related to climate change. Thanks. And I think we have some slides.
Can you share, Sam? I think Shay was going to make you a co-host.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt, Sam. Go ahead.
Yeah, I should be able to. There. Great. Glad to be with you all. As Sherry said, my name is Sam Benson. I'm on staff with Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light, lead a lot of our policy advocacy work. I'm going to be presenting on engaging with climate policy and specifically on some of our initiatives that we're following at the state legislature this session. Here's a couple examples of what our policy advocacy looks like. A photo from a legislative meeting we had last spring, Representative Phillips, then photo we did a letter drop. I think that's also at Representative Phillips' office. So a couple examples of what our work sometimes looks like. Next, I'm going to dive in and highlight a few of the pieces of legislation that we're following this legislative session. Minnesota legislature started in late January this year and runs through end of May. And we identified kind of 3 key areas that we would be following this legislative session. I'm going to highlight kind of where those 3 areas stand currently. One is the House Climate Action Plan. This is a proposal that was put together by Minnesota House Climate Action Caucus, a group of Minnesota House members who care about climate change and support climate action. And they put together a proposal to spend $1 billion of the state's budget surplus on climate initiatives. And so they put together a spreadsheet that highlights some of this. I don't know if we'll go line by line, but they have investments across the board in terms of built environment, clean energy, transportation, adaptation and resilience, lands. So you can see, yeah, they have priorities across the board. I'll stop sharing and drop this in the chat just for a second.
I've just put it in the chat, Sam.
Oh,
so
great.
I would recommend people take a look at it. It's just very interesting. A lot of detail.
I might need to, sorry, I might need to get back over before I start sharing again. This plan was not introduced as a single piece of legislation, but instead has been introduced throughout a variety of areas. So it's been included. One area that it's currently included is the House Energy Omnibus Bill. That's, if you're looking, want to look it up online, it's House File 4654. And some areas that were highlighted in that proposal is $34 million for what's called the Green Innovation Finance Fund to kind of fund new clean energy and green innovation projects. $3 million for expanding a proposal that was put forward last year for funding solar panels on school roofs. And so that got funding last year, and it's been so popular that they're looking to have additional funding available this year. Then $34.5 million for weatherization assistance program to expand energy efficiency programs throughout the state. So more people have access to making their homes more energy efficient. Other parts of the House Climate Action proposal are likely to be included in other omnibus bills that other committees such as the House Environment Committee or House Transportation Committee, which they'll be introducing in the coming weeks. So we'll be keeping an eye out for those and supporting those efforts. Obviously, it's important to keep in mind, we have right now a divided legislature. We have a Democratic governor, Republican-controlled Minnesota Senate, Democratic-controlled House. And Minnesota Senate in recent years has shown pretty strong opposition to advancing bolder climate solutions and bigger investments in clean energy. They passed some smaller things like solar in schools that I mentioned last year, but some of the bigger ticket investments have really stalled out in recent years in the Minnesota Senate. So we'll be following that and really raising our voices, especially to our senators, to push for some of these bigger investments that our state really needs. So yeah, that's where things stand with the House Climate Action Plan. If you have questions, feel free, probably put them in the chat. I don't think we probably have a ton of time to take questions now, but if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I can try to respond to them.
I'm going to use my prerogative to just ask Sam, this is only, if you go back to that slide, that's only like less than $100 million, right? Out of 1 billion that has been requested. And there's nothing in there from the land management part that I at least am picking up. So how much are you anticipating that, how much more money might get added through other bills, specific bills? And is there anything going on around land management that you're aware of?
Yeah, so this is specifically from the House Energy Omnibus Bill that was released earlier this week. As I mentioned, there are a number of other committees that haven't released their omnibus bill. I think a lot of the land management is likely to come up in the Environment Omnibus Bill. I will say that, you know, different committee chairmen might take different approaches. Some of them are just going to put things in their omnibus bills that they think might actually have a chance of, you know, finding some bipartisan agreement with the Senate. And some might put, you know, more ambitious proposals that, you know, they, you know, that have less of a chance. So I don't know if all the proposals that are in the House Climate Action Plan will end up in an omnibus bill. And if that funding will equal $1 billion, but a number, I will say, you know, we're already seeing a number of the proposals from the House Climate Action Plan in the first omnibus bill, and I'd say we'd anticipate, you know, more being in future in the soon to be released ones.
Thanks.
Another area we're following is bonding investments, and bonding is how the state pays for long-term improvements for state roads, state buildings. So if you think like state colleges and universities, bridges, things that are, I think the general idea is these are things that are going to be around for about 20 years. So the state borrows money, pays it back over time to make long-term investments in the state. And so we are pushing for some of that investment to be really focused on climate initiatives. So for example, improving building energy efficiency of state-owned buildings, updating water infrastructure. So as we have more extreme weather, we need to make sure our water infrastructure is prepared to adapt to more extreme rain events in ways that our current water infrastructure just isn't ready for, and make sure our built environment is just more resilient to the impacts of climate change. A bonding bill hasn't been released yet. I think there's, you know, discussions around it and they're working on it, but we haven't seen a draft yet. But as we meet with legislators, we're continuing to push to encourage them to include climate initiatives in the bonding bill. And the bonding bill is something that requires a supermajority, so it will require some bipartisan agreement. So it's, you know, still gonna have to be negotiated between both the parties. So pushing to get as many climate initiatives in the final version, but given the state of the legislature, we realize it won't be, the final outcome is unlikely to be a perfect piece of legislation, but want it to be, yeah, something that has parts of it that reflect our values. Final thing we're touching on is something that, you know, some of our previous speakers kind of talked about when we talk about cumulative impacts. So when we think about the environmental impact of a project, like for example, the Huber Mill project, not just thinking about the impacts of that single project, but also considering the impacts of other projects that are already there or other ones that have been proposed. So there's a bill, HF 3146, that would require in areas around the state that are kind of environmental justice communities. So they have, you know, majority minority populations, or they're tribal lands, or they, you know, have high concentrations of poverty. that when projects are proposed, that there are additional hearings, additional public engagement, and that the cumulative impacts of the environmental impacts of the project are taken into account. There's already a small area in South Minneapolis where this kind of consideration is required, and this bill would expand that out to areas across the state. So this bill is HF 3146, had a hearing in the House Climate and Energy Committee earlier this session, and this week has a hearing in the House Environment Committee on Friday. And so we've been supporting it and talking to our legislators about it, working in coalition with other partners, especially our partners at an organization called COPAL, who've been really doing a lot of leadership on this bill. We've been appreciative of hearing it, getting some hearings in the House, but it seems unlikely you'll get a hearing in the Senate this year. And so we don't expect it to pass this legislative session, but are continuing to talk with the legislators about it and supporting it in any way we can. So those are the three kind of main areas, three main pieces of legislation we've been supporting. We're definitely keeping an eye on other things. And, some of my colleagues are specifically monitoring other pieces of legislation, but these have been three of the ones that we've kind of identified as core priorities this legislative session.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, I see you bringing up information about legislative meetings. These are the three pieces of legislation that the Act for the Earth team is supporting action by members of our congregation and to take to try to influence the House and Senate members to let them know about how much communities of faith and others care about these issues related to climate change. So do you want to go ahead, Jean, and talk about the ways that people can easily take action with regard to the issues we've talked about tonight?
You're muted, Jean.
Yes, I want to share a screen. Shay, if you're there, can you enable me to share? Thank you. I still can't. Sorry. So Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light has put together a great way for us to have a very easy impact on these three pieces of legislation, and that is, which I'm going to try to bring up, and if I can't, Sam, maybe you can. You're up. I've got it. So we're asking people to do two things. One is go to Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light's advocacy alert page, which is basically a very fast way for you to, for all of us, I've already done mine here, but you can just put in your information, your contact information, and from your address, the governor, your state senator, and your state representative will come up, and you can send a letter automatically to those three elected officials with asking for support for the things Sam just reviewed. So that is one thing that we really want to encourage people to do, whether or not. So how do I go back from that screen? To the other action that I wanted to share. Shay or Nicole, or can somebody tell me how to get back to the slide that I was sharing?
You'll have to go to your dock. What kind of a computer are you using?
A PC. So can I just go to?
Yeah, you should go to that.
There you go.
Great. So the other action, which Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light is also really supporting us and encouraging us in is to join us, to sign up to join meetings with our legislators. So they are encouraging us to, if possible, meet with the senators for sure, and the districts, the Senate districts that we live in, as well as the Senate district of our church. So we have set up 2 meetings, one with, and really want to invite you, and Sherry, do you have this to put in the chat or should I?
I do not have the link for that.
Okay, I'll
Sorry.
see if
I can drop it. I just did.
Okay, thanks, Sam. And so I want to invite you to bring this up with me right now, because we want you to, if at all possible, think about signing this. And we're asking, first give your name and your email, and then if you want to receive ongoing advocacy and legislative action alerts. So as things come up, if you want to know what you can do around the Huber Project or around the legislation, and then receive Act for the Earth newsletters. But the primary thing we want you to do is to participate in a Unity Zoom meeting with state legislators. And we have one set with Senator Aaron Murphy which is Senate District 64, and that's set for April 13 at 2 o'clock. And please, she is our state senator from where the church is located. And we also have a meeting set up with Senator John Marty from Senate District 66. Many of us live in the northern part of St. Paul and into Roseville and some of the near suburbs, and that John Marty represents. And so we've set up 2 of these meetings. And if you would like to set up one with your Senate, first of all, we invite you to join us. We need as many people as possible for Unity. You could join us whether you live in like Senator Marty's district or not. But for sure, it would be great if everybody on the call from Unity could join us for the meeting with Senator Aaron Murphy. So she knows that the people from Unity Church are really working and want her to be passing these pieces of legislation. And Sam will work with you, and we will coordinate to help set up meetings with your own senator or representative. And so I'm going to stop sharing. And Sam, do you want to put in the chat your sign-up sheet for that, so that if people want your help and our help in getting a meeting scheduled, that they can go directly to you requesting signing up for that? And
Yeah, that's what I dropped in the chat earlier. Sorry if there's not something else you were trying to share.
I was trying to drop our sign-up sheet in the chat, which I will now do.
Yeah. I
So
didn't realize you had your own one.
I would like everybody to sign our sign-up sheet if possible, and really invite those who are, let me just get it in here. And those of you who want to make an appointment, to set up an appointment with your senator or representative that is outside of Senator, or in addition to Senator Murphy and Senator Marty, please click on the MNIPL Organization Take Action Policy link in, or is it Forms?
Yeah, the Google
Yeah.
Forms link.
Yeah.
I'll link it again. So
I'll just mention for those of you who may be interested in attending a meeting, most of the ones with DFL members are occurring via Zoom. I think it's more, some may be in person and some may be via Zoom for Republican members.
We have with Senator Murphy and Senator Marty or Zoom meetings. the senator, you can go to the sign up sheet, and the ones with Senator Marty is listed there, but Peter, it's April 18 at 4 o'clock. But we need you to sign up so you can work with us and we can work with you and we can get you connected to those meetings. So please sign the sign up sheet. You'll be seeing many more requests for signing up for these. We want as many Unity people as possible. And we're going to wrap up this section. I wanted to also say, Sam just acknowledged, do you want to announce the meeting with Tina Smith, Senator Tina Smith?
Yeah, I don't know if we have the registration live yet, but we will be having a meeting with Senator Tina Smith to discuss federal climate action. That's coming up on April 27th. That'll be on Zoom. We'll hear from a number of faith leaders and hear from the senators. So yeah, I don't have a registration form, I think, quite yet ready to drop, but we should have that live in the next few days. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah, hope you all can join us.
We'll be sending that out in our advocacy alert as well as our Act for the Earth e-blast. So please sign up. Please sign the sign up sheet. And now I want to, first of all, I want to thank Sam. Thank you very much for following this on our behalf and partnering with us so that we can help impact it. And really want to again thank Daniel and Annie and Joshua and Jamie. And so I want to just take a poll, and not everybody has their camera on, but we really want to allow time to go deeper if you have interest and you can stay around so there will be one group if there are people who want to ask questions about the legislative proposals with Sam, and there will be another group with our guests from Honor the Earth and Annie and Joshua. So let me just and if you're not on camera, you can either raise your physical hand when I ask this poll, or you can raise a virtual hand. But who would like a few more minutes with Sam to ask more specific questions? How many of you are there? And then Shay's going to put together a way we can sign up. Anybody interested in wanting to stay around to ask legislative questions? Okay, Peter and Sherry. Okay, and those who are interested in staying around and asking questions around the Huber Lumber Project. Yeah, me too. So let's just do, well, Shay, how do you put it out? Just invite people to respond?
Shay can set it up so that you can choose the breakout room you go to.
Right.
That might be the easiest way for everybody to go where they want to go.
I think Shay's, has that, yeah.
All right. There you
And for
go.
those of you who are leaving, who may be leaving the meeting, I just wanted to extend my thanks to you for joining us tonight, and hope you'll take the action steps. I think the Act for the Earth team members are available to help if you have questions down the line as well.
And you will be hearing from us because we'll be sending out a follow-up email with the information, the slides that were shared and the links that were shared, and hopefully you signed up and you'll be getting further information. Thanks, Sherry. So thanks everybody for coming. Shay, I don't quite understand how we do this if we do want to stay around.